in the middle of global transformation, we have the individual journey of stepping forward as a way shower and navigating all of the transformation that's going on within us as well as outside of us, and learning how to be in mastery in the moment and how to show up no matter what is going on at our best and highest. Today's guest, Daniel Aaron, is a transformational coach and a creator of the spiritual leadership and badass business program. And he's here to talk with us about being that catalyst of change and that presence in the world. Join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show. Soul Nectar Show. Soul Nectar Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is greater than us, to the big mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us inexorably to a deeper understanding of ourselves and what we're doing here on this blue dot in the middle of the galaxy. And I'm your host, Kerri, Hummingbird, and I love having these conversations week after week to support everybody in a new understanding, a new perspective, some fresh information that might really make the difference. And especially at this time right now when we are using our voices, we've been talking about standing in your power, knowing your purpose, really showing up. And it seems to me that this is the perfect time to learn how to get your message out more, how to speak effectively, how to act boldly, how to do it, without ego and without expectation, but simply to be present in the world with people that might not know this journey. They might not be on this journey. They might just be waking up to this, or they might be oppositional to everything you've been saying. And we certainly have a lot of division going on in our collective. And so how is unity supposed to happen? And how can we be agents of that? And how can we really move forward in a new way with our words, our voices, our actions, our energy to bring about greater understanding and harmony, really harmonizing the collective through our business, through our voices, through our purpose, through our energy, through our intentions, our prayers, and everything that you guys have been showing up here for so long. And I'm really excited because I'm interviewing Daniel Aaron. Welcome, Daniel, to our show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I met Daniel because he's got a beautiful podcast called The Art of Vibrant Living, which I think you guys would all really enjoy as well. I'm over there as well in an interview. It's really exciting. And so Reverend Daniel Aaron, he's a transformational coach, best-selling author, and creator of the spiritual leadership and badass business program. And for over 30 years, he's helped visionary entrepreneurs, coaches, and creatives to amplify their income, expand their influence, and live with radical purpose. Known for his blend of spiritual depth and practical strategy and bold authenticity, there's that word bold again, Daniel brings catalytic energy and deep insight to every conversation. And so I'm really excited to have you here, Daniel, and to share with the audience a little bit about yourself and, so they can know like who you are and, some brief story about how you came to know what you know, so we can get into the good stuff and share your wisdom. So tell us about you. Tell us about your path.
Thank you. And thanks for using my words to create me again now. That was fun and cool to hear. And yeah, I'll tell a little bit of the backstory. And and you didn't mean it in this way, but it's still worth me saying, I'm not going to be brief with that so that we can get to the good stuff, because it's all the good stuff. And as you know, right, part of what I'm sharing, whether it's a story or a technique or a tip or a strategy, right, it's all about how do we learn and how do we grow and how do we become who we would love to be in our lives and get the results that we want to have in our lives.
Excellent. I love that rewire. Thanks for bringing that in. That's beautiful. Yes, he's already at work.
You're welcome. Yes. So my journey in terms of who I am and the work I do in the world now started when I was 4 years old. And I was standing in the front yard of my family home near Portland, Maine. I was often out in the front yard because my family back in the house, what they did was yell and scream and throw stuff at each other. And it was not pleasant, to put it mildly. So for me, being outside in the front yard, kind of cool. Sometimes my sister Casey, she's 8 years older, she would come out there with me, and maybe I got my love of asking questions from her because she would ask me questions about everything. I think she was trying to distract me from what was going on in there. Anyway, one particular day, she wasn't there, and it was a hot, dry, still day, and I could hear really loudly my mother screaming at my father, "I am done with you and your drunkenness." And then I heard a bottle smash against the wall.
Hmm.
For me, childhood was like a full-time job. I survived. I got to the other side. Not without a lot of worry, though, for others, because people said I was shy. And I don't know if I was shy, but I think I was just afraid that my own sadness would leak out on other people. So I didn't talk that much. And it was years before we started talking in popular culture about depression. And I didn't know about that, but I was physically fat and heavy and I felt depressed. I made it though. I got to the other side of childhood. Next big event for me was my sophomore year of college. I was in Virginia. Thanksgiving break, I was still there at school, and I got a phone call and 5 words that changed my life. It was my mother, and the first 3 words were, "Your sister's dead." And that was my sister Casey,
Hmm.
who had finally succeeded in killing herself by jumping off the Coronado Bridge in San Diego. Um, I
Hmm.
felt like I got hit in the face with a dodgeball, those big red rubber balls. I was stung and I was disoriented. And the next years were like that. Um, I got lighter physically. I lost weight, and I got more depressed and drinking and drugs and blackouts and I think all of that in some way was driven by the other 2 words, which were what if? What if? What if I'd reached out to my sister and told her I loved her?
Hmm.
What if I'd paid more attention when she was 16 and she was at boarding school? What if? And on and on and on.
Such a beautiful story, Aaron. My heart just really goes out to the
Hmm.
experience that you've had. And when you said that, I felt like this thud, like just this thud, you know, your sister's dead. And sort of like harshness of that reality, I guess, the harshness of the person that protected you when you were growing up,
Hmm.
and I feel like there's people listening who can resonate with this right now because there's been many beautiful light souls, right, on the planet that have departed through maybe not their own hands, but have died too young, right? I've seen so many social posts about beautiful light beings that were really helpful that left the planet. And it's caused a lot of heartbreak. It's hard to live, without those people in our lives. So how did you move forward from that? How did you move through that experience of grief and loss?
Thank you. There's that expression, sometimes it's darkest just before the dawn. It got a bit darker for me up until when I was 26 years old, which interestingly was the same age Casey was when she killed herself. Um, I had an experience that changed everything in a massive way. I grew up against religion. Like it didn't make sense to me. I was agnostic just in case, right? And I had an
I know that
experience,
feeling. Yeah.
right? Like, in case you're up there, I don't want to, I don't want to,
Get up.
get in
Just in case
trouble.
that would be a mistake, you know?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, nonetheless, I had an experience where God, not a word I could have even uttered at that point in my life, reached down, grabbed me by the hair. There was a lot more on my head at that point, lifted me up and said, dude, there's a lot more to the world than you've been seeing.
Wow.
And it was awesome and beautiful and amazing and wonderful. And I tasted a bliss that I'd never known before. And it was also horrible because I did not understand what was going on. And I was afraid I was going crazy like Casey, right?
Mm.
And the one of the things that happened in that moment when I was 4 years old, to go way back there, right? When I heard my mother screaming and the bottle hit the wall, I had my first epiphany. I didn't even, of course, know that word, but the epiphany then at age 4 was there must be more to life than this. There's got to be more to life than this, right? So when God shared with me, there's more to the world than you've been seeing, there was a connection made.
It was like bookends on that same question, right? That same inquiry.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that though. I
Oh, of
didn't
course
see
not.
I didn't see the books. All I saw was like, whoa, I might be going crazy and I don't know how to live what I just tasted. What I concluded,
Mm.
I need a new education. I need a new way of being. And so coming out of that, I got obsessed with personal and spiritual development.
Mm.
And this is the 30-year anniversary of that divine whack upside the head, and I'm still obsessed.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a kind of the obsession that never ends.
Well, yeah, and it is for me. It is anyway, and it's also because my sister didn't get that message that there's more to life,
Mm.
right? And I imagine when she was standing on that bridge, what she saw was darkness and grime and pain, and thought that that's all that was going to come, right? And so I don't want anyone to fall for that, so to speak, to end up concluding that there's not more, because there's always more. We can create more. We can create beauty, right? So that's what drives me in my work
It's
now.
so powerful. It's so powerful, Daniel, because I've been in those spaces where I've been suicidal and I've been really dark and really depressed. And I've had the voices in my head say, people will be better off without you. You know, they won't even know you're gone, all of those voices.
Yeah.
And it's taken a lot of willpower to not act from that state of consciousness.
Hmm.
Because when it gets that dark, it really is that dark. Like it is, you just can't see any other potential in that tunnel.
Yeah.
And so it's really beautiful that you transformed the experience of your sister into a path, and that's what I think often happens. Like pain becomes the path, it becomes the path of beauty. Like it's our choice this is one of the reasons I love shamanic principles, is because it's about walking the beauty way, which to me means that we take everything that happens to us in our lives and we realize that we can create beauty with it, no matter what it is. So we can see that life is unfolding as us, by us, for us, and through us for our highest good. And then that helps us to meet, at least it helps me to meet the challenges in my life with a certainty that however bad this is and however bad it hurts and whatever's going on, this is somehow for my highest good. even if I can't see it right now. So if I keep walking the path, eventually I'll see how it was for my highest good, which is why I keep walking to see how.
Yes. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
And we're in one of those moments right now, collectively, an extended little transition. I'm using those two words together, hoping that it's short. But we're in this transitory time right now where a lot of people are experiencing a great deal of darkness and challenge and struggle. And those of us who have moved through that experience to learn that on the other side, if we keep walking the path, there's an answer that explains it, that helps us to see how it's all part of this greater design. And yet it can be challenging for many of us still to be around the sort of conflict, the conflict that's emerging. And you experienced a lot of conflict in your home, in your upbringing. So I'm sure you have lots of wisdom for us about how to move through that to create some beneficial outcomes.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm with you. I feel very blessed to have experienced many dark nights of the soul. And yeah, again, as we said earlier, sometimes it's darkest just before the dawn. And knowing that there's going to be a dawn, knowing that we're going to get to the place of, right, how does this all make sense? How is this for my good? It seems crazy. I wouldn't have wanted this, knowing that we'll get there. That's helpful, and that can inspire us to keep walking. Something else that's really helpful is creating in oneself an identity, what I call, it's not my term, but I speak of it often, anti-fragility, right?
Yes, anti-fragility. Yes, say more. I like the way this is going.
Well, so a lot of us go from victim and life is happening to me and I'm never going to get through this and life sucks and it's their fault and all of those things. I've, had plenty of time with
Me
that.
too. Yep.
And I get there still sometimes. Um,
Sometimes.
and, eventually if we keep going on the path, we get to a place of saying, you know what? That stuff made me stronger. All right. I can withstand it. I can take a lot of heat. Right. The next level, though, that we can create inside ourselves is anti-fragility. And what that means is, well, I think of it this way. It's something I learned from Phil Stutz in his book, The Tools. He says, as part of one of the processes, speak out loud, bring it on, bring it on. Quick story. A friend of mine is a coach, had a client who was a high level MMA fighter, right? Mixed martial arts, all that stuff and fighting in cages and whatever they do. He was like high level. Nobody could beat him. The biggest secret of how he did that, well, the one that I'm connected to, is he had this amazing ability that when people punched him in the face, by the time their hand came back, he would be smiling. Exactly, right? Like
This reminds me of, isn't it like a story of like, there's like a story of some Buddhist master that the same thing happened, right? Was that Siddhartha? No, I don't know. But he punched the guy in the face. The prince kept punching the master in the face, and the master was losing teeth, and he was still laughing. And the prince was like, I must have to learn from this person because nothing that I do bothers them. And he became a student of the master. So
yeah.
it's the same kind of idea, right? It's like, but I mean, how do we do that without being disconnected and bypassing, right? Because it hurts, when that kind of stuff happens. It's painful. It's we don't want to. I see so many spiritual communities where they're like, they're just like, keep going to eagle and keep flying above it. But it actually, the richness is in experiencing the whole emotional ride, right? Not maybe acting from that space, but letting it move through us and alchemize and make us stronger and more resilient. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that, because how do we laugh in the middle of all the pain and be authentic?
Yeah. Great. I love what you asked. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes we sob and feel tired. Well, let me put it this way. Sometimes I don't laugh in the midst of it. I feel sad and sob and whine and feel sorry for myself. That's okay, right? That's part of the process. I don't mean to be flippant in any way when I say bring it on. And that's certainly not something that was part of my way of being in the past. And it's something that I'm still growing into now going forward. There's a great quotation from, I think it's a Greek philosopher, Archilochus, said, "We don't rise to the level of our expectations, we sink to the level of our training." Right.
Mm.
And what that means, and why I connect that to what you asked, is how do we create anti-fragility? I don't know that particular MMA fighter, but how did he get to the point where he smiles when people punch him? Right? Training, right?
Mm.
Training. And to me, the ultimate training, the most important training, the highest leverage training is training our being, who we are, our identity. Right? And that's something that is learnable. Like anybody can do it. I mean, it takes some courage, it takes some consistency, it takes some attention. But if I can do it, anybody can do it, guaranteed.
Yeah, it's kind of like sometimes it's helpful when we start the journey to sort of isolate, seclude, and build our own love bubble, right? Because we need to strengthen that muscle of like, how do we bring love to ourselves and how do we bring presence, and we strengthen this muscle. But at some point, we're called back out, right? It's the return. If we look at the hero's journey, the return is home. So we're called back to our families, or to our environments where there's negativity or there's conflict or there's opposing points of view, or there's, in the words of the Caro from Andes, there's hucha. It's hucha, it's heavy energy. Only humans create it. And then we're called back in so that we can build those muscles, right? To have those difficult conversations, not to avoid or bypass it or go, well, I'm just not going to play here. I'm going to go up on the mountain, and zen out. But we got to get involved. And that's the place I think a lot of people are in right now, is like, we've got to get involved. But how? And what's the right way? And I think we're figuring that out. But that requires what you're talking about, strength training, right? Because it isn't going to feel comfortable. There's going to be negativity, right? We're going to have those experiences where we feel that again.
100%. Yeah. And it's not, I think it's worth saying, it's not, okay, now we're on the journey and now we're back in the village, right? It's not a one and done sort of thing. It's like, okay, we're on the journey, dark nights of the soul, learning, trouble, challenges, get some lessons, and now I'm back with my family in the world. Well, and then there's more. And it's this cycle, and we go back and forth all the
Mhm.
time. And yeah, becoming obsessed with personal and spiritual development, being a leader in the world, being someone who makes a positive difference in the world, that means it becomes a lifestyle. It becomes part of who we are. Is I take the dark stuff, I take the difficulty, and I alchemize it, right? That's, to me, that's the what I think of as the way of the shaman, is to be able to assimilate the shadow, the darkness, and bring it out into some kind of golden beauty.
I love that. It's kind of like the mother bird goes out and collects all the food, digests it, and comes back and offers it to the babies, right? So, like, in some way, like, we're doing that. We're going out, we're collecting all of this, we're letting it run through our bodies, seeing how it lands, seeing how we want to move through it. So, that time of seclusion and inward focus, and then that alchemy, and then bringing the messages out to support others, maybe to catalyze a new perspective or a new way of being. Or maybe it's just we get really good at feeling negativity and not letting it make us feel negative.
Yeah, I mean, it's different for everybody, right? Everybody has a different way and a different path. And well, let me pause because I'm not sure. Was there a question there, or
Oh, I guess I was just kind of enjoying that phrase, like we get used to negativity without letting it make us negative.
get used to the negativity? Well, I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, and that's like, in some way, that was one of my practices years ago. because I had a period of like real isolation, right? And some would say, well, look at Jesus. He had to leave town for a whole bunch of years just to get away from that stuff. Um, and so, yeah, it's good to have a period of like, okay, I'm focusing within. But then, as my mother used to point out, don't become a navel gazer, right? It's not all about you. So then there comes a point where we go back out into the world in some way. And to me, part of the test with that is, can I be in the world in the negativity without it turning me sour, right? Without me
Mm-hmm.
getting bitter. Like, how much of that can I take? And it's very much like physical training. Like, how much weights can I lift before it falls on me and I can't breathe, right? And it's that fine line where it's not comfortable, but it's not so stressful that we feel like giving up.
Yeah. So finding that balance of outwards and inwards journeys, because we're not in that lifetime where we go up on the mountaintop and we stay there. We did that some other lifetime. We're not in that one right now, but we're taking everything we learned from that lifetime and we're applying it here, right? Because I remember Bruce Lee said that hummingbird is like, to be stillness in motion is the most advanced, to be able to maintain your stillness while in motion. And that's what he was doing when he was Kung Fu fighting. He was maintaining his stillness, his presence, and totally in motion, but he never lost his stillness. And I feel like that's what we're building the muscle of. How can we stay still inside, not all churned up, but like still be in motion everywhere in the world, be moving through it, right? Alchemizing and flowing with it without falling apart, basically.
Beautiful. And I'll tell you, spirit is especially alive in the midst of our conversation right now, because you just spoke about, yeah, we're not going up, to the top of the mountain top for. Literally just before this conversation, I was on a call with a client, and I told the story of Vishvamitra, right, the Indian sage who meditated on the top of Mount Kailash for 1,000 years. And I'm like, that's not the world we live in anymore. Stuff happens a lot faster. And we've got help. We've got your podcast. We've got coaching. We've got teachers. We've got information that can help us learn and grow and alchemize much more quickly these days.
And still, with all the quickness, we need to learn how to be still and
Yeah.
create that window of timelessness within the clock, because the clock is ticking.
Hmm.
But if you get in it was so interesting because years ago they came out with flow, like science came out with flow, and they're all like, woo, nerdy flow, yay. And everyone was all excited, which is cool. But like, really, it's just what the masters have been practicing for forever is like how to get in, open that portal of stillness to the timeless one within you, and then just being completely timelessness. And when you're in that space, an hour can feel like a minute, or a minute can feel like an hour. Like, time becomes irrelevant, and yet you're still getting everything done. So it's just like, we have to work on that now. There's no way you can move through this world without flow. Like, you're going to drown in all the details. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
beautifully said. I'm with you.
So how does one become, because I know that you help people, and we're I can't believe we're at the near the end. We need more time. We'll have you back on, like we said at the beginning of the podcast. We're probably going to need more time. So you train visionary entrepreneurs. You train people who are really here to get their message out and to be in the environment. And what I'm hearing you say is adopt the understanding that this is your mastery. So it's a 24/7. Like, you're always working the medicine. You're always practicing your mastery, no matter what it is that you're doing. You will have to stay present and aware. But what's along that line, like, what's the advice you give people? Because they do want to have an impact. And there's a tendency right now, with so much that's been thrown at us, that we could get a little swampish, in our own stuff, and be overwhelmed by that potentially. But then we want to lead, and we want to be coaches and mentors and healers. So how do we navigate that? It seems like a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's worth saying, because I can just feel some of the listeners, some of the audience is going to hear what you said about 24/7 and you're on it all the time. Some people are going to hear that and go like, "Oh, it's too much work. I don't want to do that." Right?
Yeah, I want to go.
Right.
What happened to beaches and margaritas?
Yeah,
That was only
exactly.
like 10 years ago.
Right. Well, there's a concept created by one of the godfathers of coaching, a guy named Dan Sullivan. And the concept, he didn't create the concept, he labeled it this way. And he labeled it as 10x is easier than 2x, right? Another way of saying it, and I like the way Landmark Education speaks about it in their transformational work, which is we as humans are addicted to, okay, this is not how they speak about it. I'm modifying. This is how I speak about it, reminding myself of them. We as humans are addicted to little shifts, more, better, faster, smarter, work harder, put in more hours, right? Because that's more of the same, which is familiar, right? So it's not as threatening to the ego. And the best we get with that is a little bit of movement, a little bit of improvement, right? So the flip side of that, and improvement's cool. I mean, improvement's better than deterioration. However, there's a whole other world of possibility, which is transformation.
Hmm.
I say to the queen of the butterfly before me, right? And going from a chrysalis, going from a caterpillar to something that can fly, that's a 10x jump. Transformation means going from one form, it destroys and goes into another form, right? So, and here's the thing, like our human mind that's addicted to more, better, faster, work harder, put in more hours, roll up my sleeves, get sweaty, cannot comprehend, cannot see, cannot imagine. Actually, it can be easier. It can be, not only can I get a 10x increase in my income, in love, in my impact in the world, not only can I do that, it's actually easier.
Yeah, you have to slow down to speed up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that we're always telling people with inner medicine training because it's like 18 months, right? We're like, it seems like a long time. It's going to go by like this. But when you slow down and go through and let the energies transmute things through this process, right? You come out the other side. It's like an octave, it's a jump. I mean, it's multiple timeline shifts through the whole thing. When I say that, I mean your whole life radically changes because you radically change. And when you radically change, the conditions of your life are no longer supported from the past. They just fall away, which does mean some shift, right? So some people fall away, some relationships fall away, a job falls away, a car falls away, things fall away. Kind of like the shift we're in right now collectively. A lot of stuff's falling apart. And also to satisfy the need that we're a human in a body, it is good to have, some measuredness about it, which is why we do it for as long as, we stretch it out so that you don't freak out and go into a mental hospital. We don't want you to have to do that. Or like have to go to the mountain just to get yourself back together. So there is a way to balance it, right? In between these extremes. Like, I think that's what we're going through, right? We're going through some just massive human transformation. Itself is transforming, the collective is transforming, and it's messy as hell. Things are falling apart. And where do we have our safety in the middle of that?
Hmm. I'll tell you, if it's okay, I'll tell you one more quick story I think that
Yeah,
relates
please.
to that. Um, I told you earlier about the, whack upside the head from God, new world, awesome, beautiful, really challenging also. One part that was in between the wake up and getting into personal and spiritual development was me getting locked up in a psych ward, right? So you could say that was a spiritual awakening gone bad, right? It went pear shaped. Literally got locked up. Now, at the time, I was not thrilled about that. I was pretty upset about it. Now I can look back and say, so many blessings came from that. Now, when I was in the psych ward, you're going to love this, Kerri. This is so unusual and fitting to your world. When I was in the psych ward, a good friend of mine who I lived with in a community came to visit me, and he gave me a piece of paper with a phone number on it, and he said, "Call this woman," right? And I did, from the payphone in the main room of the place, like this, kind of like keeping my voice down. I called her. She was a clinical psychologist and a shamanic
Oh,
practitioner,
awesome.
right? And that meant that I could work with her in her shamanic role, but also she could get my medical records and be approved by the system,
Oh,
right?
so great.
The first time I worked with her, we did a journey, and I worked with her over several months. And in that first journey, she got some information for me. And part of the vision that came for her was I had been zooming around a lake in a speedboat. And now, going forward, I am on the water in a canoe paddling.
Hmm.
And part of what I took away from that was, yeah, it did go wrong, so to speak. And I'm with you. We don't want people to have to go through that kind of experience, right? To get broken and to fall apart and all that. Maybe I needed that because I'm a bit hard-headed. I don't know. In any case, it is certainly possible to keep one's feet on the ground and connect to the divine and evolve rapidly while also being stable, right? Or at least in some parts being stable, not getting to that level of extremity, right? And that's part of the blessing we have. Again, the work that you're doing in your programs and the information you're sharing in the show. And we've got amazing coaches in our world now. We've got so many opportunities to get support, to have community, so that we don't have to do it alone. That was me zooming around alone on the lake.
Yeah, and you got an opportunity to go within, to have the brakes put on and to get some support to make that transition, right? To integrate all the energies that were churned up from you speedboating around the whole lake. Eventually, you do have to stop and let it integrate somehow. Beautiful. I love that story, and thank you so much for that, because it's true. It's like however somebody's journey goes is actually perfect. And it's the mother in me that I always, ever since I became a mother, I was always trying to keep my children from skinning up their knees. And I was like, oh, I see a roadblock up ahead. Don't run too fast on that, or don't hurt yourself, or don't, oh. And really it doesn't serve anymore, because people need what they need. Everybody needs what they need in order to move forward on the journey. That was a lot of energy that was coming through just now. It was like, whoop, that's the truth. That's how I know it's being true, is because it freezes the thing. And I'm like, oh, the guides are saying, remember that you're saying this right now, Kerri. Yeah, I got to stop trying to prevent people from getting hurt. Yeah. Sometimes the hurt is what's needed.
Yeah. One of the declarations I speak out loud every day is, let me think of it out of context now. Oh yeah, there it is. I am sword and scythe, happy to hurt in order to heal.
Happy to hurt in order to heal. Beautiful. Wow, I love that, Daniel. That's gorgeous. And I want to honor your time, and you'll be back. Don't worry, you guys. I mean, we're just getting started. So beautiful, beautifuls. I know that you're offering a free gift. Ditch drudgery, go from passive to passionate. And it's a video training for vibrant living. So vibrant thriving. So I'm going to put the link in the show notes below, you guys. And I want to have you back on the show as soon as possible. Is there any parting thing you want to share with people for this conversation?
Well, thank you. Just in case anybody's listening and not viewing, the way to get that little, I say little because it's short, video training, short training, big results, is also just by going to my website, danielaaron.com/tips, TIPS, right? And any last words? Is that what you asked?
Anything that's coming through for you to share as we wrap up?
You, my friends, are infinite and divine. And all of our work and all of this conversation serves one purpose ultimately, and that is for you to be able to fall in love with yourself, right? And you are worth it. And as you learn more and more, and I'm continuing to learn to love myself, you change, your life changes, and the world changes. Everything is possible, and you are a key component of everything.
Oh, I love that message. I felt it. Beautiful. Okay, so I end my calls by giving kisses, but before I give you guys these kisses, and Daniel's gonna help us out. Please like, subscribe, follow the show, sign up on the list, become part of the tribe, and share it out with anybody that you think could really use this message today, because you never know, that could be the game changer.
And may I interject for a moment to say what she said, because this work, what you're doing, Kerri, with this show and the work you're doing through your programs and the many ways that you serve people is huge, and it's making a big difference in the world. So the more people can spread and share what you are bringing forward, the better it is for all of us. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm touched thinking about your sister. And yeah, so there's tears. It can make the difference, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, here comes soggy kisses. Love you guys so much. You can join me in sharing kisses, Daniel, if you want to. Here they come. You guys earned it. We love you. We love you. We love you. Thanks for staying to the end of the show. And here they come. Mwah. And we'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now, everyone.
Aloha.
If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. To dive in deeper to nourishing conversation, visit soulnectar.show.
Soul Nectar Show. Awaken, awake, Nectar Show. Take a sip from the drip of nectar, from the source of who you are. Soul Nectar Show. Yeah, yeah.